down at La Perouse Bay. The rain is starting to pick up again, and I'm right next to Jeff Bezos' home. I'm gonna jump out of the vehicle here in just a moment and show it to you the best I can. And the only reason I'm able to do this right now is because I've got this Starlink going right here. So I don't know if this is gonna work, but I'm gonna try. And then in the process of doing this, this is a live YouTube live, I wanna pose the question of, is it fair? Is it fair, the social disparity, economic social disparity that we live in today, especially for a place like Hawaii, where we have over 37 billionaires that call Hawaii home or second home. They have control over almost $1 trillion in pure cash wealth. And the question is it fair? But I'm going to go into that a little bit deeper, and I'm going to talk about some of the solutions that other communities have figured out to help close the gap between the have and the have-nots. And I really hope that this spurs some kind of a change here on Maui, in Maui County, and the other islands, because the bottom line is this. You've got the billionaires that are here: Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, Jeff Bezos, who's the house I'm about to show you. They're here. Oprah Winfrey, 37 of them that we know of. There's probably more. So they're living in Hawaii, enjoying Hawaii. And meanwhile, if they're not careful, not to mention all the other multimillionaires, there's not going to be any locals left to service them at the restaurants because there will be no place to live. So there's communities that have actually fixed this problem, such as Aspen, Colorado. As a matter of fact, I used to sell real estate in Aspen, Colorado. And one of the things that surprised me about Maui was the fact that it didn't have the same infrastructure as a place like Aspen, but there's more billionaires that live in Hawaii or Maui than Aspen. So what did Aspen do that we could learn, that we could implement here? And the number one thing is economic development, infrastructure development, but most importantly, housing with deed restrictions that specifically go to teachers, to policemen, to firemen, to local workers, and it could easily be funded with a fraction of the net worth of just those 37 billionaires, and there's probably more. So the question is why hasn't that happened in Hawaii? I don't know. It's weird, right? It's totally weird. I think that's the price of paradise. If you want to own a place here in Hawaii, you gotta give up. You gotta help. You gotta do your part. Do me, right? But I have a feeling that there's a little bit of greed mixed with a little bit of political ineptitude and government, people that aren't thinking smart. But there's a way this can all be solved. So anyway, without any further ado, there is Jeff Bezos, La Perouse home, right there. La Perouse Bay is right behind me, and he's end of the road. It's a pretty humble abode, right? But I thought it would be an interesting live and an interesting video for you guys to see, because obviously Jeff Bezos, one of the richest men in the world, and he calls Maui home part of the time. And it is an incredibly remote property. It's at the very end of the road. It's very unique in the sense that all this water here, you cannot technically touch the water. You can't touch the water here. So it's a reserve, a preserve, if you will. Can't even fly a drone. There's cameras all over the property. I'll show you one of them right over there. Can you see that camera right there? Very secure, very remote. And I was actually hired by the Wall Street Journal to film his property with a drone right after he bought it, which I did. But the moment the drone went up in the sky, I was approached by some guys in unmarked cars that came over and told me to stop filming. And I wasn't allowed to fly a drone here. And it's actually true. They passed a special rule here that you cannot fly a drone in this area. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, they get special privileges, they get special that. But doesn't it make sense that they would do something special for the people in the community around them, especially when they have the resources to do so? And they do. And there's programs. It's not about giving people a hand out, it's about giving people a hand up and creating systems that just make sense. Having deed restricted homes, making affordable housing for the local people that live here, that work here, and that support, and then infrastructure, whether it's infrastructure in the schools. Matter of fact, the number one thing, I ran this through AI, is that they would create the right reservoirs and flood control. I was like, wow, maybe it was top of mind for AI because we're having these floods right now. But when I moved to Maui, one of the things that really struck me was like, wow, with all the wealth that lives here, with the tax base, with all the money that's coming in from all the business that's happening, from all the tourists that are coming, some of the worst infrastructure I've ever seen. It's almost a third world country. So I think it's an absolute shame. And the thing about these billionaires is they're smart guys. They got their wealth because they're smart. So you would think that they would think, hey, I'm going to take some of that wisdom that I have and help the community. I've got all these people that work for me that are super smart. I've got connections. I can make things happen because I'm a billionaire and I want to help the communities and where I live. So you would think that if you lived in a community where there was all kinds of billionaires, that there would be just amazing things happening everywhere, just like they've got amazing things happening in their life, but it kind of spreads out. Whereas if you were to go to Ethiopia and there wouldn't be a billionaire to be found, you'd expect to see kind of Ethiopian stuff. So the dichotomy, the thing that I find so interesting is that this exists here in the United States, in Hawaii, in a place where you've got economic disparity. And it shouldn't be happening that way because you know what? I mean, you could say it's enough that these guys, these billionaires employ people, they pay their taxes, but you know what? It's not enough because you have to properly deploy the taxes. You have to properly put the money to work. And that's where there should be accountability. There should be some social justice. And when the job is not done properly, then there should be, somebody that comes in and says, hey, let's model something after a community where it's worked. Let's model something after Aspen. Let's quit guessing. There's certain programs that absolutely work. And if you keep kicking this can down the road long enough, you're going to end up with a bad problem, just like a flood where everything comes in and eventually things get destroyed. You have to think ahead of time and build these systems and build these infrastructures and put together social programs so you have a lasting community. You just don't use it up. You just don't, you don't do anything. You act something to protect the future of that community. Because in the end, if you think about it, it's not just a piece of real estate. It's not just a place where you it's a place where you're surrounded by other human beings. It's your community. And in the end, that's the legacy that you want to leave. You don't want to say, hey, I just owned some really cool place. You could say, I owned a really amazing place and a beautiful place that God created. I had the privilege of calling it my home or my second home, but I left my mark. And there's generations of people that will live better because of the decisions that I made and the resources that I deployed, not just buying the next yacht. Again, you could take a small percentage of the $1 trillion that these 37 billionaires have, a small percentage, and they could deploy it wisely to change the future of Hawaii for the better. So that's my challenge. In the comments, let me know. What do you think? What are your thoughts? How would you do it if you were the billionaire? Or maybe you have already seen this program work in other communities and you can share your insight. Or maybe you're Zuckerberg. Maybe you're Jeff Bezos. Maybe you're Oprah Winfrey. I don't know who you are, but I know for a fact that Hawaii should be fed up. And I'm hoping that some change is coming soon. So thank you guys. I'm going to leave you with this parting thought down from here, La Perouse, next to Jeff Bezos' house. Will it make a difference? I don't know. I hope so. That's my hope and my prayer. It'll make a difference. Let's put these billionaires to work.